Hello and welcome to the third of my shows, which gives you the chance to win money through gambling without having to pay any subscription or any kind of fees, something like that. And what an extraordinary day it was yesterday. Firstly, as I said, a lot of spiritual things are going to start happening now. And if you look at yesterday's video, when I talked about something quite significant, unbeknown to me at the time, I went like that. And that is a circle. Right behind me is a circle wheel. At the very moment I did that, a motorbike went past right through that circle. So check that out because it's on yesterday's video. And if you listen to my tips, which here we go, here's the controversial part, I can tell you are coming direct from a huge love Christian related energy source. But let's get straight on to yesterday's three horses. Now, the first horse that ran yesterday was River Frost in the first race at Plumpton, the 12:55, and it went round in a circle and won quite comfortably. And that horse was available at a very good price in the morning, was backed heavily after that, but then actually the price came in a little bit and it finished up at 4 to 6, which was not too bad considering the amount of money that was on it. Okay, so that was the first of my three selections yesterday. The second horse was Top Notch, and it certainly was top notch. And there's the my cleaner just walking past the video. Never mind. Top Notch went on to let's just go with it because that's real. That's live broadcasting. Top Notch also led all the way, jumping fences for only the second or third time actually in his career. I'd have to check that out. But led from start to finish, jumped beautifully, and won very, very easily indeed. And that was at a similar price to the first horse with Frost. So then moving on to the third horse. Now, if you look again at yesterday's video, this is absolutely extraordinary. My third horse was Gymnast, trained. I said I was getting a lot of strong energy about this horse. It's trained by John Gosden. John Gosden actually trained the winner of the race just before that at 3.5 to 1. And in our race, unfortunately, Gymnast was beaten in a photo finish. It was that desperately close. Got a bit of a bad run, made up lots of ground, and unfortunately was just not quite able to get to the winner. So we had two winners, 1 second beaten a head, a nostril, whatever you like, in a photograph. 2 out of 3, so we've had 5 winners and 1 second from only 7 selections, and none of them have been strong selections to date. Although I've got one strong selection coming up in the next week, and I'll be giving you that as soon as I feel the time is right to give you that. And I'm going to move on very briefly now to something called anti-post betting, which is where you bet on a horse quite well in advance of the race. Now you can get very good prices on this kind of betting. For example, I backed a horse called Q Card, who is running in a race on the 26th of December, the day after Christmas Day, of course, in a race called the King George Chase. It's run at a racetrack in England called Kempton Park. Now I backed this a month ago at 5 to 1. And the horse now is just over 1.5 to 1. So that is because he has won a race after I backed it. I put the money on before that prep race because I visualized how incredible this racehorse is, although it's not that much of a surprise. A lot of people know how good the horse is, but obviously if the horse is that good and he's 5 to 1, then you obviously have to realize that the bookies probably weren't aware at that time just how good he was in connection with the race coming up on Boxing Day. So I've got my money on, quite substantial money on each way at 5 to 1. You can't even back the horse each way now, so I've got the comeback of it finishing second and third and still getting the money back. But I'm going to give you 2 horses in the show that I would do next, which will probably be either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, because we don't have any bets today, unfortunately. When you're running something like this, you can't be running it successfully if you're betting every single day. The idea is you bet major bets. There should be only about 2 or 3 a month, but I keep things ticking over by betting probably 2 or 3 times a week. But as you've seen so far, my first selections were small, my next selections were medium. Haven't given a strong bet yet, and yet we've had 5 winners and 1 second out of 7 selections. And in quite interesting enough, on the losing selection, let's look at that briefly on Saturday. And I talk about energy horses. There were 17 horses in that race, and my losing selection was in the rough, but the winning selection was actually the horse right next to it on the race card. So I didn't quite get the energy, if you like, and that brings me on quite nicely to what happened yesterday, because I said there was a God link to Gymnast, and John Gosden is the trainer. So first 2 letters G-O, and then you swap the next 2 letters round. Look at the name of the winning jockey in the very same race. It was Josephine Gordon, G-O, again the same first 2 letters, and again you change the next 2 letters around, the third and the fourth, and you get God. Josephine Gordon won the race. I thought it was going to be related to John Gosden. There were the only 2 G-O's in the race out of the 9 runners. So that's testimony to the fact there's something quite remarkable happening in here. And it's been happening to me for 8 years, which is why I've been lucky enough to live in Southeast Asia and in Europe without having to work for 8 years. So it's basically been an 8-year holiday. So I'm very grateful to God for that. And I will be talking a lot more in the next coming weeks about his significance with what we're doing here, because I'm just a messenger. But there is something quite powerful and unique happening to this planet next year. And I'm not just talking about Donald Trump, although he's actually part of it. So let's have a look at those 2 things I talked about yesterday. Josephine Gordon is the winning jockey of the race. Josephine Gordon, the winning trainer of the first race, and second in the race that I gave you, John Gosden. So if this is an absolute coincidence, so be it. It's a bit like the circle and what went on there. All about taking a look at yesterday's video. So right now we've had 7 horse racing selections. 5 of those horses have won easily. 1 second beaten in the photograph by the size of my nose. And the other horse that lost was actually next to the horse on the race card that won a big price as well. I think it was 12-1. So then, that's pretty much all for this show, because it's just a recap show and I don't have any selections, unfortunately, today. The racing's not that good. There's football in England. There's a couple of things that I think will happen, but the prices aren't that good, so it's not really worth me mentioning it. We got the League Cup tonight, of course, and Liverpool now sadly without Philippe Coutinho for probably 2 months, and that's going to make people's fantasy football teams a bit of a headache, because obviously you need to take him out and put someone else in. And I might be looking more at fantasy football in the coming weeks as well, because as the reigning champion of the Sun and previous champion of the Daily Mirror, why not give out the information how I receive it? And that's something else to look forward to. So we've got not only the Cheltenham Gold Cup coming up, and I'm going to give you 2 horses for that race in March next year, whereby you can treble your money whichever of those 2 horses wins. And that could very well be the next piece of information I give you in my show coming up either tomorrow or the day after. So how to treble your money now for a race in 3 months' time, 3 to 4 months' time, if either of 2 horses wins, so that cannot be too bad. So until then, thanks again for listening, and I'll be back with you in a day or 2. I've got to do some traveling today, so I'm taking a day off, and also I've got to do some work on my movie, which is a comedy gangster movie set in 1983 called The 1983 Gambler. And I've got to do some work on the book today as well, which is a book about truth. That's all I can say right now because it's quite revealing. So I need to speak to a publisher in relation to that. So that's very close now to to being published. So from Southeast Asia in the morning, and it's as I'm doing this piece, I'll tell you precisely the time now. Here is 9:27 a.m. So that would be 2:27 in the morning in the UK, 3:27 in the morning in Western Europe. So check out exactly when this gets posted, because I'm now going to send this off to a friend of mine in Canada, and he's going to do some nice little touches to it, putting the jockeys that I've talked about, trainers, horses, that sort of thing. So until the next show, have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you soon. Take care.